Joker Folie À Deux has such mixed reactions. It's actually kind of crazy, with some people calling it boring to some people calling it the film of the year. Some reviews say that the musical aspect to it was amazing and Joaquin Phoenix was terrific, both for the musical and non-musical parts, to other people stating that the musical part was terrible and that the actors were kind of lifeless in this movie. But how you feel about this movie might depend on a couple of different things. One is the musical and the other is the ending, which we have heard about. So we're going to go over the reviews, and then at the end, we're going to talk about what people are saying about what actually happens in the movie. Don't worry, I'll give a spoiler warning before we go into that part if you don't want to hear any spoilers. But to start this off, I do want to say that I thoroughly enjoyed the first Joker movie. I thought it was really, really good. I loved diving into the psychological aspect of Arthur Fleck and how he becomes who he is. How a nice guy who is trying to do right, who is trying to just earn money, to take care of his mom, to try and find love, to try and be a comedian and make people laugh, can turn so evil due to a series of unfortunate events. I think it's actually very relatable, and it was pretty grounded in the first film. Now, it looks like the second film isn't going to be really like the first. It sounds like it's going to be quite different. And based off of what we know about the movie, without giving away any spoilers, is that Joker is going to trial and they're basically deciding what his sentence is going to be. And a part of that is going to be, well, is this man insane or is he sane? And then of course, along the way, somewhere he meets Harley Quinn, most likely in Arkham Asylum. And then the two of them become Joker and Harley, the iconic dysfunctional couple. On paper, that sounds really good. It's a couple and a story that people are very, very interested in general. So what exactly went wrong or went right with this film? Let's go over the reviews. Well, right now it's sitting at a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. And this, of course, right now is coming from the Rotten Tomato critics. This is not the audience score, just the critic score. But here's what some of the critics say. Some very interesting comments in here. One of them, Alexander Harrison, says, "It seems like Todd Phillips targeted Folie à Deux directly at the audience who got a little too into Joker and made it to antagonize them." That is quite an interesting thing to say. It almost sounds like if you liked the character in the movie for the first Joker, then this one you're not going to like. Another comment from Rory Doherty says, "It is not that this version of the Joker is inherently wrong, but it is uninteresting. Please let us be done with this." I specifically mentioned those two comments first because it does sound like the Joker that we met in the first film, we're going to get a different version of him in the second film, which begs the question, why? The first one was a massive success. Why not double down on what you did? Make him the same and just simply continue the story. And here's another extremely interesting comment from Luke Hicks. His review states, "It's not that the film is so crazy that you have to see it. In fact, what's crazy about it is that it isn't. Rather, that few have ever had a platform like Felix and Joaquin Phoenix to fool with expectations of the masses so blatantly. This makes me believe that whatever they have advertised this film to be and whatever we expect it to be based off of the first film, it is completely not that." However, he did give it a score of a B-, so not a terrible score. And on the other hand, there are a lot of comments that think that this change is kind of good. Brian Viner from Daily Mail UK said the film is audaciously different in style from the original. Not quite as electrifying, but bold and brilliant all the same. And he gave it a 4 out of 5. Raphael Abraham, who is a top critic, states, "Joker still has a trick up its sleeve, even a serious subtext. The best moment comes late on in an incendiary scene." It seems like for every bad comment you do get a good comment, but the problem is the bad comments seem to be more impactful than the good ones. For example, a top critic, Richard Lawson, said, "It's startlingly dull, a pointless procedural that seems to disdain its audience." Jordan Farley says, "Part courtroom movie, part behind bars romance, Folie à Deux is an unconventional musical sequel that fails to hit the high notes." But at the same time, we do get comments like this from Jeffrey McNabb. Overall, Folie à Deux is just as edgy and disturbing as its forerunner, replicating the idea of modern American cities as terrifying powder kegs perpetually on the cusp of explosion. It really sounds like if you like this movie or not, it's going to really just depend on your own personal preference. Based off of all the reviews that I've read, it's either you really like it or you don't. There are very few kind of in the middle critic ratings. So like I said, if you like musicals, then you might like this. However, some people did say that the musical elements were kind of underwhelming. However, some critics also did say that Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga nailed it, while other critics say that the story doesn't really allow for too much depth for their characters. So the musical part, I think, is going to determine whether or not a lot of people will like this or not. And like I mentioned in the beginning, the ending is something that will determine this as well. And this is the part where we are going to dive into some big spoilers. So this is your spoiler warning. If you do not want to know what happens, you should click away now. Otherwise, we're going to get into some aspects of the movie and particularly the ending of the film. Now, these spoilers are coming from the reviews of the film, so I do assume that these are 100% accurate. We learned from the Wrap's review that the sequel takes place 2 years after the events of Joker, leaving Arthur Fleck awaiting his competency hearing. So basically they're going to decide if this man is insane or sane. If Arthur's found sane, his trial will commence and the death penalty is on the table. So his lawyer, Marianne Stewart, tries to prove it wasn't Arthur who killed all those people. It was a separate personality who calls himself Joker, but even Arthur doesn't seem so sure. All he knows is that there's another inmate, Lee Quinzel, who loves Joker very much. She even saw a TV movie they made about Arthur a whole bunch of times. And yes, based off of everything that I've read and seen, Lady Gaga's character's name is Lee Quinzel, not Harley, but Lee. Go ahead and let me know how you feel about that in the comments. But continuing with the plot, Arthur is wasting away in Arkham State Hospital. He meets Lee, who devotes herself to him. He goes on trial, and the is he a dual personality or just a criminal debate unfolds. And here comes some big spoilers. A verdict is reached. A fateful bomb explodes. The end. And we'll touch on this a bit more in just a bit, but even the Hollywood Reporter elaborates a bit by stating it's difficult to imagine hardcore Batman universe aficionados being thrilled by a movie that, big spoiler, would seem to wipe out an entire future for a key nemesis enshrined in comic book mythology, rendering him a sad, broken man. But it goes deeper than that. According to some people, at the end, the bomb is set off by Quinn and Fleck, and the bomb kills Arthur, but Lee Quinn gets away. And that is quite an ending, and if you're still with me now and you stuck through the spoilers, please let me know what you think about that. Them killing off Joker. Now, we know James Gunn and Peter Safran are in charge of DC now. We know that the new DCU is about to start. And although this, of course, didn't connect to any of that, and they can do these separate things like the Batman as well, it might be just that they are trying to kind of wrap out all of these other things that exist outside of the DCU. But either way, the movie definitely sounds interesting. And again, it seems like the audience might be pretty split on this, just like the critics are. But if you stuck with me all the way here till the end, please let me know what you think about everything that was mentioned in this video, and are you going to go see the movie? Does this excite you, or are you a little bit bummed out now? Let us know in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. As the new DCU starts, we'll be covering DC a lot more. And you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.